Welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast. This might be a very controversial one, so we'll see what happens. Today we're looking at Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's written and directed by Rian Johnson. It's based on characters by George Lucas. And it stars Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, and Oscar Isaac. And the synopsis is, Rey develops her newly discovered abilities with the guidance of Luke Skywalker, who is unsettled by the strength of her powers. Meanwhile, the Resistance prepares to do battle with the First Order. So, Packy, what's your view on Star Wars The Last Jedi?
I liked it. I didn't love it. It was a lot of things that were lacking that should have been in there, things I think we should have seen, a lot of things that were unnecessary. But I think there were some good points, too. I was not a fan of Kylo after Force Awakens, and after this movie, I was. So go figure that. Things out of Luke and that type of situation, I would have liked to see them better in this film. But overall, I did like it.
All right, Mike.
Pretty much the same. I liked this one. I wasn't in love with it. I walked out and I enjoyed it, but there were still things, it's kind of like Justice League. There were things about it that I did not like at all, and that really bothered me, that I can't get into right now. I have to talk about that when we can talk about spoilers. I think there were some things that did work, and there were other things where I just think they really failed miserably. Cinematically, we had some big shots that I thought were really beautiful on screen. They probably would have looked a lot better in IMAX. But I think it was solid is a loose word to say. I think it was pretty good. Just there's some things I think if they fixed and done a little bit differently, I think would have been excellent.
James.
I actually like this movie.
Sorry. I didn't mean to laugh you. Because you were the one that was just like, you know what, I don't want to see this.
Yeah, man, I was very apprehensive because The Force Awakens really disappointed me.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One was a little bit better, but still, you had to wait 2 hours just to get to the meat of the movie. And this one, I was kind of just apprehensive going in watching it. But I actually enjoyed it, and I also like the little things that they did that kind of shit on The Force Awakens. I was about to give a standing ovation. I like how they actually really dug deep into the Force and not just say, oh yeah, it's this girl here that is Force sensitive, Force powerful, and she already knows how to do everything. But they actually showed her being a novice. In the previous movie, they tried to make it seem like she was just the genius of all Force users or something like that. They gave her a little bit more props than what they should have. And this was a leveling out. And it actually told a very good story in this one compared to The Force Awakens. I actually enjoyed it. I did have some issues with it.
Matt.
I classify this as a soulless movie that improved on depth of certain characters and then forced plots and pacing which made the movie feel artificial. I felt that the actions of some of the characters defied logic or common sense, and I was disappointed in the movie.
All right, Keith.
Grateful that the movie was not made by J.J. Abrams. It was clear that that Rian Johnson knew what he was doing or knew the lore behind Star Wars, not just from what the movies were put out, but he had a deeper understanding of how Star Wars worked and what made it work. And he was able to put that in there. If he hadn't had to fix all the dumb stuff that Abrams put in there, I think we would have had more time to delve deeper and told a better story. But he's a far better storyteller than this, and taking on its own merit, it's a really good Star Wars movie. There are a lot of problems I had with it, but in the long run, it did a couple things that I thought were impossible. They made me give a crap about Rey. I actually liked Kylo Ren, gave personality to that. It did a ton of things for several characters like Poe Dameron. He even incorporated Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher's character, more so into the plot instead of her just being a stand-in as a throwback to the nostalgic old days. Her character actually did something that was kind of worthwhile. Mark Hamill did an outstanding job, I thought. And all in all, there were a number of little surprises in there that kept my attention. Pacing is probably the biggest thing that's going to hurt this movie. And it was way too long. It didn't have to be that long. But other than that, I thought it was far better than The Force Awakens and pretty good film.
All right. So I'm just going to say I can admit when I'm wrong because I really had very little hope for this movie. And I will say that this movie feels less of a rehash and not quite a sequel, but more of a side story. I still consider the first set of movies and the second set of movies to be canon, but this movie is completely competent. It does what it needs to do. It bridges the original movies. It doesn't feel like someone just looked at the original movies and said, oh, well, let's do that again like Force Awakens. And then it provides a small glimpse into the future of what the future movie should be. And kind of echoing what Keith said about J.J. Abrams. It feels like J.J. Abrams had a lot of contempt for Star Wars, and Rian Johnson really appreciates Star Wars. And that his decisions for this led to a decent movie where J.J. Abrams led to this silly science fiction comedy movie just with lightsabers. We'll say that Mark Hamill and Oscar Isaac are probably the best parts about the movie, but Oscar Isaac's character is really being poorly written. And I will probably say now that we can talk about in the spoilers is that this movie eventually turns into Mad Max Fury Road.
Agreed.
And that's where that pacing starts to come into play. So, for the question and answer section, Keith and I kind of answered this question, but do you feel that this movie benefited from not having J.J. Abrams as the director?
Yes.
So, having said that, J.J. Abrams is coming back for number 9.
I hope they change the decision, but
yeah, I hope so too.
He executive produced this one.
Well, yeah, he can do that. That's
That's the
fine.
main thing. Like Abrams is just like he just collected a check and got to watch a couple of cuts of the film.
They signed him for what, another 3 movies?
Yeah, Ryan Johnson, he did a few films. The one film I really love of his is called Brick. I encourage all you guys to check that out. That's a really good film.
Yeah, and he also did Looper as well.
Yeah, Looper was actually pretty decent. I could see why they gave him the reins to Star Wars for the next trilogy.
There's another trilogy?
You will get Star Wars movies.
Yeah, he's going to be doing
forever,
a whole one.
Matt.
Like a 10, 11, 12?
You will get 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, however many long.
Holy crap, man. This is like Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Star Wars every year for the foreseeable future is what Kathleen Kennedy said.
Make their money back somehow, right?
Well, they have to do something to balance out the Marvel movies and all these Fox movies that they might be acquiring.
That they've acquired.
So, let's get into scores. So, Packy, what score would you give Force Awakens and some wrap-up thoughts?
7, and that's a passing grade. It was things that disappointed me that was not included or things that didn't happen, and it was a whole story arc that I thought was totally unnecessary. So that totally took away from the score, and I'll get into that in the spoiler part.
All right, Mike.
I give it a 7. Like I said, there were things I really did like about it, but there were a lot of things that I just felt like they should have done better or they should have included. Same thing Packy said. This limits the score for me.
Jay.
I would give it a 7.5. Like I said, I came in with very, very, very low expectations. So it exceeded my expectations. The storytelling was a lot better than The Force Awakens, but there were some issues with this movie. Yeah, I definitely had to hold that for the spoiler part of it. But there were some things I liked about this movie. There are some things that they could have done better. But I give it a 7.5. I actually came in thinking that I was going to probably get this thing a 2. So 7.5 is an Oscar-worthy movie for me. So
Matt.
Give it a 4.0. Forced plots, lacks common sense. I don't feel that there's a lot of promise. The direction was different than Force Awakens. I got it, which it was definitely a different direction, but I don't think it was a step in the right direction. 4.0.
Keith.
I'm going to agree with James and give it a 7.5. There were definitely plotting issues and definitely problems with pacing. Movie did not have to be 2.5 hours long. Could have been cut at least 30 minutes from the film, but at the same time, it was a pretty good movie. And the fact that the storytelling was well enough that they made me give a crap about the shitty characters Abrams created, I was blown. I didn't think there was any way I could actually ever like Kylo Ren or give a shit about his point of view. But this movie actually made me do a double take. Everything that I thought would happen that would make this movie great happened. I didn't get any of the amazing set pieces that I thought that I was looking for, but even at that point, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but it still was an entertaining film. So I give it a 7.5.
All right, so I'm going to follow up and give this a 7. The ending really saves this movie because the middle part of the movie is not the best, and the beginning part where there's a lot of battle sequences is good, but that middle part is where I talk about Mad Max Fury Road. That works because it's interesting. This works just because it's Star Wars. So, again, Mark Hamill, Oscar Isaacs, good actors. But the other people surrounding that maybe aren't as strong. But the fact that J.J. Abrams did not have anything to do with this is this movie's greatest benefit. I despise him as a director. I despise him as a producer. I despise him as a writer. I despise his comedy. I despise him as a person. And that's Beast Game Podcast. You can find more of our podcasts at beastgame.com, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And Packy, where can we find out more about what you do?
that's called Darth Castle. Check us out on YouTube. We do statue reviews, unboxings. Just check us out, subscribe, like, share, and I appreciate it.
Packy, where can we find you? Like Darth Castle.